Today, we're zeroing in on Palantir Technologies, ticker PLTR, one of the most polarizing and exciting names in the market. If you're holding Palantir stock or thinking about jumping in, you're probably feeling the roller coaster of emotions that comes with this AI powerhouse. Buckle up, because we're about to break down everything you need to know about Palantir's stock price, the latest news, what retail investors are saying, short interest, options activity, and what analysts are up to. Let's get right into it. Welcome to Stock Hub, your go-to place for the latest stock market news, analysis, and insights. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let's dive in. First up, let's talk about Palantir's stock price and how it's been moving over the last 24 hours. As of the latest market close, Palantir's stock is sitting at around $120.58 per share. But here's the kicker. It's been a volatile day. The stock pulled back by about 4%, a noticeable dip amid some broader tech sector weakness and rising treasury yields. This kind of movement can feel like a punch to the gut if you're a long-term holder, but it's not unusual for a high-growth name like Palantir, especially in a market that's been jittery lately. Volatility is part of the game with PLTR, and today's price action is a reminder of that. Still, the stock remains a darling for many retail investors, and we'll get into why in just a moment. Now, let's dive into the big news driving Palantir right now. One of the most exciting updates in the last 24 hours is a massive $795 million contract extension that Palantir secured. This is huge, folks. This contract underscores Palantir's dominance in the government and enterprise AI space, where its platforms like Gotham and Foundry are becoming go-to solutions for complex data analytics. The deal is a continuation of Palantir's deep ties with government agencies, which have been a cornerstone of its growth story. However, some investors are scratching their heads because the stock didn't skyrocket on this news. Why? Well, a lot of this growth seems to be already priced into Palantir's lofty valuation. The market's been expecting big contracts like this, so the immediate reaction was muted. But don't sleep on this. Long term, these kinds of deals solidify Palantir's position as a leader in AI-driven solutions. On top of that, there's chatter about Palantir's exposure to potential risks, like concentration risk and share dilution. Some posts on X have pointed out that Palantir's reliance on a few key clients and the potential for insiders to sell shares could weigh on the stock. These are valid concerns, but they're not new. Palantir's business model thrives on high-value contracts, and while dilution is a risk, the company's revenue growth has been strong enough to keep investors optimistic. Speaking of revenue, Palantir's last earnings report showed a 30% year-over-year increase in commercial revenue, which is a big deal as they diversify away from government contracts. No new earnings dropped in the last 24 hours, but the contract extension news is a strong signal that Palantir's momentum isn't slowing down anytime soon. Let's shift gears and talk about what retail investors are saying on platforms like Reddit and X. The sentiment on Reddit, particularly in communities like r/Wall Street Bets, is a mixed bag, but leans heavily bullish. Palantir is practically a cult stock in these circles, with users hyping up its AI leadership and long-term potential. You'll see posts calling PLTR the future of data, or memes about holding until it hits $200. But there's also a vocal minority pointing out the risks, like the stock's high price-to-earnings ratio, which is north of 100. On X, the vibe is similarly split but energized. One user, Fanny Rocha123, posted that Palantir's AI platform demand is exploding, claiming a 15% after-hours surge, though that didn't fully materialize in today's trading. Another user, the Chef Stocks, celebrated the $795 million contract, saying it's a stepping stone for Palantir to grow into its valuation and hit new highs. On the flip side, NVIDIA's updates raised red flags about concentration risk and dilution, warning that the stock's high valuation could be a hurdle. The takeaway? Retail investors are passionate about Palantir, but there's a healthy debate about whether the stock's priced for perfection or poised for more gains. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, short interest and options activity. Palantir has always been a battleground stock, and the short interest data reflects that. As of the latest reports, short interest is still elevated, with over 40% of the stock's float being used to bet against it. That's a big number stock, and it means short sellers are banking on a pullback, possibly due to concerns about valuation or macro risks like rising interest rates. But high short interest can also fuel explosive short squeezes if positive news keeps rolling in, so it's a double-edged sword. As for options activity, there hasn't been a specific breakout of unusual trades in the last 24 hours, but Palantir's options market is always active. Traders are focusing on a price range between $100 and $150, with a mix of bullish call buying and bearish put activity. This suggests that while some are betting on a breakout, others are hedging against further downside. Keep an eye on options volume in the coming days, especially after big news like the contract extension, as it could signal where the smart money is leaning. What about analysts and institutional investors? There's no fresh analyst coverage from the last 24 hours, but the sentiment from recent reports is worth noting. Goldman Sachs and other firms have revisited their price targets on Palantir recently, with some setting targets as high as $140, while others are more cautious, citing risks like reduced government spending or broader market corrections. Citi Research's recent move to double their price target on CoreWeave, another AI player, shows that analysts are still bullish on the AI sector as a whole, which bodes well for Palantir. Institutional ownership remains strong, with big names like Vanguard and BlackRock holding significant stakes. However, some analysts have flagged Palantir's high valuation as a concern, especially after its 340% return in 2024 blew past the S&P 500's 24% gain. The consensus seems to be that Palantir's growth story is intact, but execution and macro conditions will be critical. Let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture. The market's been a wild ride lately, with trade tensions, tariff fears, and rising treasury yields shaking things up. Palantir's not immune to these macro headwinds, and today's 4% dip is partly tied to that broader tech sector weakness. But here's what makes Palantir stand out. Its AI platforms are mission-critical for its clients, whether it's government agencies analyzing national security data or enterprises optimizing supply chains. That kind of sticky, high-value business model gives Palantir a moat that's hard to crack. The $795 million contract extension is proof that demand for their solutions isn't slowing down, even in a choppy market. So, what's the conclusion for retail investors? Look, Palantir is not a stock for the faint of heart. F-bomb. The volatility we saw today is par for the course, and with a premium valuation, there's always a risk of pullbacks if the market gets spooked or if growth expectations aren't met. But the fundamentals are hard to ignore. Palantir's expanding its commercial footprint, locking in massive contracts, and riding the AI wave that's transforming industries. The retail sentiment on Reddit and X shows that the community believes in this company's long-term vision, even if short-term price swings test their resolve. Short interest is high, which could set the stage for fireworks if positive catalysts keep coming. Analysts are mixed, but the institutional backing and sector tailwind suggest Palantir's story is far from over. Thanks for watching Stock Hub. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.